Hey everyone, welcome to Political Insider. I'm your humble host, Brett Smith. Joining me today is a special guest and a good friend. Brian McWilliams is a native Philadelphian, currently living in Los Angeles and practicing public relations and stand-up comedy. Brian is the host of Mean Age Daydream, the Lions of Liberty Network's weekly Wednesday look at current events, culture, and comedy through a Liberty lens. Great to see you, Brian.
Yeah, good to be back, Brett. Looking forward to our conversation today. And as I referenced earlier, I'm wearing my finest Hunter Biden sitting by the pool impregnating strippers shirt today.
So. It's perfect. I just saw Biden, some tweet from the RNC where Biden's talking about the debt, and he's like, "We're not a deadbeat nation. We pay our bills." And I'm sitting thinking to myself, unless it's your son's love child who he owes $20,000 in alimony to.
Well, if I'm sure if Biden could get the Fed to bail out his son's $20,000 alimony payments, we would definitely be on that train too. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Going to cover that? I hope so. I really do.
Oh God, I'd love to see Janet Yellen pulling up in the middle of the night and just slipping packets of money under the stripper's door, toddling out in her little lady. She actually. What are the odds that Janet Yellen is somehow a Mrs. Doubtfire figure in the Biden administration? She kind of looks like it, doesn't she?
She does. That's kind of scary, actually. Okay, so the Hunter Biden baby mama drama seems to be dragging out more publicly than I think the Bidens would want. Recently, Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre refused to answer several reporters questioning Hunter Biden's baby with a former D.C. stripper. DNA evidence obtained by the court has confirmed that the baby is his, and he has been sued by the baby mama for dodging upwards of $20,000 in child support payments and refusing to sign off legally, changing his daughter's last name from Roberts to Biden. Is there a strategy to ignoring this whole thing? What do you think?
I was thinking about this again from a communications PR standpoint, and I think that there is no other strategy that they can possibly employ here. I mean, it looks so bad. And not only that, let's not forget, Karine Jean-Pierre is so incompetent at her job on a fundamental level that to open up that can of worms in any way is just going to look bad. She's going to say something stupid. She doesn't have a binder of information on this. So The only strategy they can employ is to say, I'm not going to comment on it. And this actually, from what I've been reading, plays in a little bit to a change in lawyers as well on the Hunter Biden camp.
Right.
Because they had switched from a lawyer who was advising more of this approach, which is a stand back approach, to now this new lawyer who's advising that they go more on the offensive. So that's going to be exciting to see, because how you go on the offensive when you are on the hook for not paying alimony to your baby mama from a love tryst for a daughter who you're ignoring. I don't know how you go on the offensive about that. I don't know what that looks like.
Well, that's interesting, because I read that today. The White House lawyers and Hunter's new lawyers are not getting along. There's quite a lot of friction there, and it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, because you've got two kind of radically different ways of doing things. And like you, I think that it's sort of like the basement routine. We'll just cower in the basement and just not talk to anybody and not go anywhere and not do anything. And I'm not sure if that's going to work in this case, or if it's even going to work from the standpoint of him campaigning for 2024. COVID was the perfect excuse to why he was, had those small crowds and everyone's spaced out, and he's basically just campaigning from the basement. Do you think that's going to work in 2024 or for 2024 general?
Absolutely not. I think, you're going to have to see Biden out there campaigning hard. I think he's going to have to be physically in places. He's going to have to do a lot more press conferences. And here's an interesting wrinkle to this that ties into the Hunter Biden scandal, right? Is that before, when you have Joe Biden and you talk about whether or not Hunter might be indicted, whether or not they might go and push forward and try to find more items about this and push forward with kind of doing more of that deep diving into what he's done, the business relationships, I would have said in the past that they were trying to get rid of Joe Biden because he's not pulling that well. He's gaffe prone. Maybe they get somebody else in there and they could use Hunter as a wedge to get him to resign early. But now you've got Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in the race. And now they're more scared. I guarantee you the establishment's more scared of RFK Jr. than they are of doddering Joe Biden, because Joe Biden will walk the line. So they're in a real pickle.
Yeah.
What do you do? So, I'm confused as to what track they're going to take here. And when it comes to campaigning, it might go real bad, because if they don't just capitulate and say, look, pay this woman whatever she wants, change the name to Biden, because if there's anything discovered in here, it's going to be brought up by RFK Jr. It's going to be brought into the limelight. It's going to be the number one thing that's talked about to showcase that Joe Biden's not only incompetent, but also he is corrupt.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, RFK is polling like 19 to 20%. That's more than what Ron DeSantis is polling next to Trump. So, and I just think to myself, that's not good. I mean, that you're in the Biden camp, you've got to be nervous about those kind of numbers. There's not going to be any debates. Biden is going to skip the debates. Trump said he might skip the debates, but I don't think he's going to do that. I mean, he's going on some CNN town hall here in a minute, and I also think that I can totally see Trump like at a rally with like thousands of people, and he's like, "What do you think? Should I do the debates?
Right.
Should I show up to the debates? What do you think? I was thinking about not going, but now I'm thinking about going. What do you think? Like, should I do the debates?" And just everybody feeling like, "Yes, do the debate." I mean, that would be a perfect way to kind of, and he'll probably do it at the last minute. He'll say, no, I'm not going to waste my time. It's rigged. It's got these Fox guys. They're a bunch of dorks. And then he'll be at some rally with thousands of people, and all of a sudden, game changer. He shows up.
He just pulls out his cell phone. He calls Ron DeSantis and starts debating him right there on stage.
Right.
No
I'll debate him right now. Right.
I mean, I want more than anything to see DeSantis and Trump debate. I don't know if it'll be the best thing for the country or the GOP, but from an entertainment standpoint, that's must see TV. I got to watch it.
Yeah.
And on that note, I mean, I'm also, again, with RFK Jr. polling as high as he is, as you referenced, coming out there, I'm fascinated to see now how the media, the left-wing media, is going to react about Joe Biden, about a lot of the issues like COVID. Biden can't just pretend that COVID's gone away. He can't just pretend that that half these issues about Ukraine are just going to disappear, because RFK Jr. is campaigning on that stuff.
Right.
And if he's pulling that high, he can't be ignored. And the media is going to have to pressure Joe Biden on it. And then you add in all this other stuff with Hunter on top of it. Mm-hmm. And I mean, can you imagine Joe Biden even trying to answer a question on a single one of those issues, let alone multiple issues? Should he actually take questions at a press conference, as he was joking about during the White House Correspondents' Dinner?
I don't know how Biden even makes it. Let's just say he gets the nomination and he makes it there. Nikki Haley thinks he's going to die, but let's say he makes it there.
It's a fair bet. It's not like she's going out on a limb here.
I don't think that was an outrageous observation or whatsoever, frankly. But it's kind of like it's like even if he makes it, how does he withstand another debate with Trump? Just given this guy's cognitive decline. I mean, he's not even who he was in the general or in the primary debates, back in 2019. I mean, not even the same guy.
Yeah, I honestly think, well, I guess in a sad way, it's going to come down to this. I don't think the debate's performance will matter versus a Trump, because people already, if it comes down to Trump and Biden, people have chosen their sides. Yeah. That's it. It's going to come down to, independents who hate Trump, Republicans who hate Trump, and Democrats who all already hate Trump, versus the MAGA nation and maybe some people that go, look, I've been personally impacted by Biden's policies, or holy, moly, this guy is just so out of it that I can't possibly vote for him. But I think that's a very small portion, to be honest. Yeah. I think that the majority of people don't care. He can get up there and say anything. He can poop his pants on stage. It's not going to matter. Yeah, they're going to vote. They're going to vote for him regardless.
I'm sitting here thinking, will it make a difference with the suburban wine moms who want to match their Chanel bag with their trans kid? Right. I don't know. I don't know if we're ever going to get them back.
There's so many of these Chanel bags that well, it used to be a clasp, but now I decided it's going to be a button.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I don't, even going forward, I mean, how does Joe Biden completely ignore the existence of his 7th grandchild? I mean, is that something that's realistic,
I think that you talked about the suburban mom group. That's where, if this thing really does continue to accelerate, I think that can really hurt him, because he goes out there constantly talking about his 6 grandchildren, talking about how he loves the kids. He tells these weird stories and sniffs their heads. But this poor girl is going to go through her life never having her head sniffed by Joe. And the moms out there are sure, I guarantee they're taking note of this, because going out there and saying one thing, ignoring your son's malfeasances, ignoring his business dealings, ignoring the fact that he's a crackhead. We could all say, okay, you could get over being a crackhead. Good job. Good job getting your life in check. Right. But when you're talking about one of the most powerful families ignoring a child,
Yeah.
Meanwhile, espousing family values and how you're one of the people, and this all shucks good old boy talking about my sons and how much you love them and crying on stage during your speeches. Why aren't you taking the responsibility for this family member of yours? What did she do to you? Nothing. Your son is a crackhead and impregnated a stripper. That's not that girl's fault.
Yeah.
So why don't you acknowledge her existence?
Yeah,
It looks
absolutely.
bad.
It does. It does. I don't see this being spun in any positive way, which is why they're just saying nothing about it. It's just, oh, I refer to the DOJ or I refer to Hunter Biden's lawyers or whatever. Karine Jean-Pierre, in her, she dresses really nice. I think that's the nicest thing I can say about her. She's got a great wardrobe. She has great sense of style. She picks great colors, and she's attractive. And I mean, that's as much as I can say. But it's like I think about that when I think, it's like they put her out there because she is all those things, plus the combination of the gay, black. It's like two protected classes all in one.
Well, but hold on. Do you think I was joking about this on my Twitter? Do you think after Don Lemon got fired, he was gay and black? Karine Jean-Pierre is looking around going, "Oh, yeah, I don't know. It looks like we don't have that force field anymore."
These three protected classes: gay, black, gay, black, woman.
That's true. The woman.
Yeah. And Don Lemon, I mean, everybody hated him, but I think they put up with him. But I really do think it was that crack about being past your prime. I mean, he's sitting there on TV with two women. I mean, and he thought he was going to get away with that. It just tells me he's like
the ego, really? The ego and the stupidity of the man. Just to not have that wherewithal. By the way, how funny would it be, before we talk about or move on from Karine Jean-Pierre, how funny would it be if Peter Doocy just said, Karine, can I ask you a question? How is the stripper issue polling?
No, that's a perfect question. He should ask that. He should.
It's not outwardly insulting, but it certainly is funny.
She's got to have that in her notes, right? I mean,
right?
You think so, that's on that cheat sheet, So Hunter continues to be pushed further and further away from the Biden family. My compadre and former guest, Robert Davi, arguably one of the greatest Bond villains of all time, who also directed My Son Hunter, which is a really good movie. Very funny, lots of satire in that. He said last year that when I interviewed him, he said he doesn't think that Hunter's going to get indicted because that could potentially damage Joe Biden's reelection. Do you think Hunter is ever going to be brought forward to discuss the wide-ranging allegations or corruption or other charges against him publicly and face potential repercussions, or will Joe protect his son and Bagman at all costs?
As I was alluding to earlier, I think that there's a possibility if the machine wanted to oust Joe, if they had a better option in place, I think that it would be the perfect lever to get him out. Unfortunately, now, like we're saying, if it's RFK on the other side, he is far more of a threat to every power, every elite interest that exists. He is a far more of a threat to virtually everybody in Washington, if we're being perfectly honest. So the odds are that they will say, nope, we're going to let this Hunter thing slide. We don't want to bring this to the forefront. We don't want to endanger Joe and his possibility of getting reelected. And that's my honest assessment of it. As sad as it is, because Hunter should probably face something, but I doubt he will.
Yeah, I mean, I don't agree with RFK Jr. on anything except his criticism of the pharmaceutical industrial complex, and probably maybe a couple other.
He recently,
issues.
To his credit, and I was shocked by this because he's always been kind of an eco-warrior, said on record that right now, people like Bill Gates and a lot of these corporations and governments are working to use this climate issue as just a way to keep people down, to get their own advantages, and that private capital is going to actually find the way to solve the climate crisis. So he actually endorsed. I know. I know. You see, I'm getting a shock on your face. I swear to God, he said this. He literally said right now that capitalism and private industry is going to be the solution, not these big governments, because he sees what's happening.
He sounds like Bono.
He's coming around. Yeah, I know. Can you believe Bono said that too? Good on you, Bono.
Yeah, he said how to end world hunger and whatnot. He said entrepreneurialism, capitalism. Mm-hmm. These are the things which bring, third world countries out of just, dire poverty. That's amazing.
I mean, that's a big white pill, man. It shows you that it's become too obvious. They've overplayed their hand insofar as pushing this climate agenda and using it to push authoritarian measures in to control. You look at like Sri Lanka. I know we're going way off topic here. But Sri Lanka, they force these farmers into abandoning all of their fertilizers that were based on nitrogen.
Weren't the Dutch doing the same thing?
Yes, they were, and the Dutch farmers had dumped mounds of feces and manure on, I think, the parliament steps in response to this because they destroyed the crops. I mean, Sri Lanka's government really was overthrown because of this. They caused starvation on a widespread scale in that country because of this new world order, World Economic Forum mandate that you have to get off these nitrate-based fertilizers.
Yeah.
It's insanity, and they're seeing this play out now where a lot of these bigger voices are saying this is bonkers, and they're coming back around to our worldview.
I think I saw RFK talking about that. He was talking about how it was a bait and switch. They made them switch to these super nitrate fertilizers, and then they say, "Oh, sorry, that's bad for the environment. Can't use them." So you got to shut down like 1,200 farms. I've been watching Clarkson's Farm on Amazon Prime, which is Jeremy Clarkson from Top Gear and the Grand Tour. And
they keep trying to cancel Jeremy, and he keeps just popping up. He's uncancelable, that guy. I love it.
I know. Well, and it is like the most libertarian, pro-conservative show I've ever seen.
Oh, I got to watch this.
You have to. You will be hooked on the first one because Jeremy bought this farm out in the countryside where there's a bunch of, rich elitists, some of which have farms or small farms that surround him. But it seems like it's kind of a community of just rich people who own land. And he knows nothing about farming. And so he's trying to do something with this property, right? Rather than put like a racetrack on it. He's like, I want to try and make money with this. So he starts farming and he hires some people to help him because he knows nothing about this. So it's perfect from the standpoint of the viewer. You are Jeremy. You're going through this and you're failing along with him because you don't know anything about it. I know as much about farming as Jeremy does in the beginning. And that's what's so much fun. But it's all of the burdensome regulations, the high costs, not being able to get the cooperation from the local city council and people who just hate his guts. It's so amazing to me that, and he's trying to like start co-ops with the local farmers to start a restaurant. All the food that you'll eat at this restaurant, the pigs will come from 4 miles over here. The lamb and the vegetables and the potatoes come from here. And it's all of the local farmers are like, oh God, we want this so much. And it really starts out as a little country store where he's selling what he's farming. And then they try and shut that down. So he's like, okay, fine. You're going to shut my shop down, then I'll start a restaurant. Well, you can't build one. Well, he's got an existing barn that dates back, hundreds of years that you can repurpose any way you want. So he's utilizing loopholes, and it's like adapt, improvise, overcome. It's like perfect libertarian, conservative kind of message of free markets, capitalism, innovation, creativity.
I'll probably watch it tonight, man. That sounds so great.
Because I'm a gearhead. I love cars, and so that's what got me into Top Gear, and that's what got me into Grand Tour. Because they fired him off Top Gear after like 16 seasons because he talked shit about, I think, Meghan Markle or
I
something.
think that's exactly what it was. It was some offhanded comment about either a celebrity, female, or royalty.
Yeah, and then they fired him off Grand Tour for like smacking some I think like a not an intern but a like a production assistant or something, like he hit him, and they're like, yeah, you can't do that, Jeremy. But it's Amazon's highest rated show, and then Clarkson's Farm comes along, and now that's Amazon's highest rated show. So there is going to be a season 3 apparently coming up, but you'll love it. It's a lot of fun. The people you meet that he brings in to help him do all this stuff is part of the fun.
I'm telling you, bro, I think you might have just figured out what Tucker Carlson's next move might be. And it's definitely Tucker Carlson's Farm.
Now he's talking about doing a debate. So, the crazy thing about Tucker is that, there's got to be some kind of a non-compete in that contract, or they're probably going to try and I can see them trying to sideline him for 24, but I think
it depends on what he's getting paid out. If he's still if they decide to walk away, because I'm curious to see, and we don't know this yet, whether or not he and Fox mutually said we'll walk away, because he was getting paid not a small amount of money. But when you look at what a Joe Rogan got paid to go to Spotify, and I know Elon Musk is saying come to Twitter, Elon Musk may go, look, I'll make you a deal for $150 million tomorrow, and this is your platform. So I mean, Tucker may have made the best move just by saying, look, you want to fire me, fine, I'll walk away, but I'm not signing anything. We're just done here.
Oh, I think
so. You have to pay me, but we're done.
I interviewed Kyle Becker the other day, and we were talking about this, about how has the 24-hour cable news platform kind of outlived its usefulness? And do people like Tucker need these platforms, or can you go out and create something on your own, whether it's with Rumble or whether it's with your own platform, or just kind of doing some deal with Twitter or some platform. And he's just kind of like, I don't think so. I don't think you need. I think that's kind of an outdated model. And the idea is like, whether it's for existing talent or up and coming talent, it's like the old idea was, oh, I've got to get to this pinnacle of Fox News, or I got to work at CNN, or I got to work at Newsmax. It's like, I don't know. I don't know if that's really the case anymore, because there's so many different ways of communicating with people and reaching your audience.
I think that they don't have, like, the news channels, I don't think have the capability anymore to create big time personalities. And I think, and this is a point that I'll give John Ziegler credit, who's great and fantastic reporting about the Penn State scandal. Yeah. But he had made the point that they probably don't want big personalities anymore, in truth, because they can't manufacture them. Don Lemon is a perfect example of that. Don Lemon, they pushed Don Lemon for 17 years, and every year his ratings got worse. So they clearly, unlike Disney, they can't create stars anymore. Yeah. So it's probably better to have interchangeable talking heads. You don't have to pay a lot that'll toe the company line, whatever you tell them. And then if they don't work out good, you fire them. Or if they get too big for the britches, you let them move on. Yeah. And to your point, they don't need Fox either. You can develop your own platform if you got the talent. So
yeah, I mean, I was looking at some of the numbers, and Fox was losing like $50 million a year just on blue chip stocks that would not advertise. Yeah. On Tucker. And I'm just thinking to myself, okay, so they cut him loose. They bring in some milquetoast conservative who just, is like blah, 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 toes the company line, like you said. All of that ad revenue comes back. They're going to recoup that money that they lost. Yeah. But I think they're probably questioning that maybe now with the drop off in audience, which has been, I think, like 2/3. It's pretty dramatic. Yeah,
massive. It's daily show after Jon Stewart style losses.
Yeah, but I think they want to sell this thing. I keep getting the feeling that maybe like cutting him loose, cutting Bongino loose, cutting Laura Trump loose, that not only brings ad revenue back in, but it also makes it, maybe takes the edge out of Fox, and maybe that makes it a more easier sale. They can just get rid of this thing, and the Murdochs are done. They can go and sit on a beach with a boat drink or something.
Well, they could do that now. Who are we kidding?
They can. they can. All right. Well, last question. Any movie or TV show recommendations for our viewers who are interested in something other than politics 24/7?
Yeah, I've got a fantastic one. I just finished Picard season 3. I'm a big Star Trek guy, and the first couple seasons of Picard, the first season was okay. The second season was woke trash, right? And the third season, fantastic. Okay. A friend of mine just told me that the reason of that was that they actually let one of the old writers from Star Trek: The Next Generation take over, run with it, and the people that wrote the woke garbage had pieced out somewhere else. And it's wonderful. So if you're looking for a good, fun throwback, Star Trek that's got zero politics in it, really. Yeah. Star Trek Picard season 3. It's on Paramount Plus right now. Fantastic. How about you?
Do you need to watch seasons 1 and 2 in order to watch season 3, or can I just jump in?
You can jump right into season 3. There's literally no reference almost, and I think intentionally so. They're like, these seasons didn't happen. Free your mind,
Retcon.
It was season. I couldn't even finish season 2. It was so terrible. No, they jumped in. Oh, it was intentionally. I swear, intentionally they were like, cut it off.
Season 1, I couldn't get past like episode 3. I was just like, none of this makes any sense. And there's all these weird tropes, and you've got the Mary Sue kind of chick, and I was just like, I don't know. But I mean, it wasn't great. I was a huge Trekkie growing up. Love the original show. Love the movies. Sub Gorka and I were talking about the other day how Wrath of Khan's got to be, it's one of the greatest sequels ever. But it's probably still the most. Certainly not the most successful. The Voyage Home with the whales, that's the most successful. That thing
which is what, by the way, what I hate. I hate that movie. I think it's the worst one of all of them.
I don't hate it, but at the same time, it was Nimoy's directorial debut. Yeah. And I do think that in a lot of ways, it brought in lots of non-Trekkies into it, which is obviously why it made so much damn money.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But, we were talking about how awesome Star Trek is. And I remember when The Next Generation started in like 88 or 89, and it got off to a slow start, but they finally started to kind of figure out, how to make this fun and interesting. And again, Gene Roddenberry always used to say it's wagon train in space. It is kind of a Western. And I was hoping with Picard that they would kind of return to that, but it's great to hear that season 3.
They have season 3. They have.
Okay,
you're gonna
check
love
it out.
Trust me, you're gonna love it, man. What
Yeah,
about you? What are you watching? What's your recommendation?
Clarkson's Farm, obviously, that's
Oh
a
yeah,
huge
yeah.
one. We watched 1923, which I really liked. I'm not sure. I liked 1883 a lot too, but I liked 1923 because I love Harrison. I love watching Harrison in anything. And what else? Oh, and then we went back and started watching. My girlfriend never saw Narcos, so we're watching
Okay.
seasons 1 and 2 of Narcos, which is Pablo Escobar, which I think are the two best seasons, and largely because they're set in the late 80s, early 90s, and you just have a much better, even though it's all true, it's all, it's based on real life events, and they brought in the DEA agents who are in the show to be
Hmm.
technical advisors.
Oh, nice.
So it's authentic. Obviously they dramatize things, and I think there's some time condensing, but
Like every time they stop, like technically, you're going
right.
to need to put a sock in the front of your pants,
Yeah, right,
if I
right.
recall correctly how my character looked back then.
Well, it's funny because, like, Pedro Pascal plays Javier Pena, who's one of the
Hmm.
guys, and actually looks a lot like the real guy. Both guys, Holbrook, who is Hal Holbrook's nephew,
Hmm.
going old school. He's the villain in Magnum Force, and has, worked a lot in the 70s and the 80s. Solid character actor. But it's funny because Javier Pena is portrayed to be like this total kind of womanizing. I mean, he sleeps with just about anybody, even a communist at one point in time, which is kind of funny. He makes a joke: "Would I sleep with a communist?" But it's funny because, like, these guys were obviously on set, and, like, this is all happening, and it's just kind of like, the real guy's there. He's being portrayed as this kind of like, this ladies' man and everything, this Latin lover. But one of the things I like about it a lot is that the DEA and the CIA and everybody involved down in Colombia going after the cartels back then were massively outgunned, not just from the standpoint of weapons, but technology. You
Hmm.
didn't have, satellites and photography and all this stuff. I mean, they're still flying planes and triangulating cell phones, and you've got to have, boots on the ground, coordinating with the people in the air and back at home base. And it makes for a better cat and mouse game because the villains, Pablo Escobar, they have a huge edge
Yeah.
on our guys and the local police and government, who are totally corrupt. Aside from the president, who's trying to, be all things to all people and also stay true to himself. But really great cast, beautifully shot. I kind of, I started to get into, once they catch him, Narcos continues on and they explore, I think, the Cali cartel. And I had a hard time kind of hanging in there with the Cali cartel. It got kind
Hmm.
of pretty gruesome. I mean, a lot of the violence is just sort of a little bit gratuitous. And personally, I just don't think that the Cali cartel and the villains that they choose to run with after Escobar are as compelling as Escobar. Escobar was
Yeah.
very much, and the guy that plays him is also just this monster on screen. And this guy I mean, the screen presence that he has is just insane. I mean, he just sucks up all the oxygen, and he's got this great voice. Doesn't look like 100% like Pablo, but he comes across as being this. He's got command presence,
Hmm.
if you will. But if you haven't seen it, I think you'd like it. The first couple
Oddly enough, I
seasons.
haven't. Yeah, I haven't seen Narcos. Yeah, I got to check
Yeah,
it
I mean,
out.
I think it got. I mean, it got a lot of buzz. It's where Pedro Pascal. I think that's the kind of the first thing that he did where he really sort of stood out. And I think it's the first time that I saw him. Now he's like in everything. He's all over
I
the
know.
place.
Yeah.
Um,
He unfortunately, I still can't get over his personal politics. They do
they
bug the living
suck.
crap out of me, man. God, he pisses me off.
I
It,
know.
it gets in the way. I hate to admit it because I try not to let that happen, but it legitimately bugs me so much that now when I see him, it bothers me. But he was awesome in the Nick Cage movie,
I
The
haven't
Weight of
seen that.
Unbearable Talent. Oh, fantastic, super
Okay,
funny.
because I was just
And I
thinking
love Nick
about that.
Cage. Is so he just doesn't care. He
Oh,
makes fun of himself. It's wonderful.
yeah, I saw an interview with him with Stephen Colbert the other day, and they asked him what his earliest memory was, and he talked about having memories being in utero. He's
Yeah,
like,
I
I
don't know if
seem to
that's true.
recall like dreamy kind of dark and hearing voices and like Nick is so amazing and so
Yeah.
funny and just he's one of the greatest creatives in Hollywood. And I wanted to see that. I was kind of up in the air on it, but that's worth checking out. What is it? The Unbearable
100%.
Weight
Of the unbearable weight of talent or something like that, or the weight
Right.
of unbearable talent. It's got
Right.
such a funky name, but it'll come up. But that movie's for sure one to watch. It's really
I'm
fun.
gonna have to check that out. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, sadly, we're out of time. Brian, go ahead and give everyone your social media coordinates so everyone knows where to find
Yeah.
you and what you're up to.
All right. Well, you can find me at Brian McWilliams, BrianMcWilliams, or at Lions of Liberty. Of course, my show is called Mean Age Daydream on the Lions of Liberty Network. And if you just want to follow me for some comedy, I also do a podcast called The Boring, BOHRING podcast. There you go.
Awesome.
Brett, always good coming on, man. I love joking
Thanks,
around
dude.
with you and chatting to politics.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do it again.